let's take a look at the 50 essential computer and IT terms in German. So the first one is der Rechner or der Computer, which means computer. So der Rechner, or it is also called der Computer. The next one is der Bildschirm, which means monitor, der Bildschirm. Then we have die Tastatur, which means keyboard, die Tastatur. After that we have die Maus, which means mouse. So it is the same, only written differently, die Maus. After that we have der Arbeitsspeicher, which is the RAM, der Arbeitsspeicher. Then we have das Betriebssystem, which is the operating system. For example, Linux, Windows or Mac, das Betriebssystem. The next word is der Speicherplatz, which is storage, der Speicherplatz. Then we have der Akku, which is the battery, der Akku. Then something that we do with the Akku is aufladen, which is to charge the battery, aufladen. And this is a verb and a separable verb or trennbare verb. Then another important verb is herunterfahren, which means to shut down, herunterfahren. And the opposite of herunterfahren is hochfahren, which means to start up, hochfahren. The next word is der Neustart, which means restart, der Neustart. Then we have die Datei, which means a file on the computer, die Datei. This can be any file, a text file, Word file, PDF, etc. And a file is saved in der Ordner, which is the folder, der Ordner. Then we have löschen, which is a verb and it means to delete, löschen. This can be to delete a file or a folder. Something else that we can do with a file or folder is kopieren, which means to copy, kopieren. And after copying, what do? That is einfügen, which means to paste, einfügen. We can also umbenennen a file or folder, which is to rename, umbenennen. Then we have herunterladen, which means to download, herunterladen. And the opposite of herunterladen is hochladen, which means to upload, hochladen. Then we have das Backup, which means backup, or die Sicherungskopie. This also means backup, die Sicherungskopie. The next word is speichern, which means to save, speichern. So you can say eine Datei speichern, so to save a file. The next word is öffnen, which means to open, for example a file, öffnen. And schließen, which means to close, for example a file or a window, schließen. After that we have das Internet, which means internet, das Internet. Then die Webseite, which means website, die Webseite. And we see a website on their browser, which is the browser, which can be Chrome or Firefox or anything else, their browser. Then we have their link, which is a website link, their link. The next word is die Internetverbindung, which means internet connection, die Internetverbindung. Then we have die Startseite, which is the home page, die Startseite. Another important verb is suchen, which means to search, suchen, for example to search a file. Then something that you often have to do is aktualisieren, which means to update or refresh, aktualisieren. For example, when a new version comes, then you have to aktualisieren. Then we have der Verlauf, which is history, der Verlauf. The next word is das Konto, which means account, for example an email account, das Konto. And for a Konto you need der Benutzername, which is a username, der Benutzername. And with a Benutzername you also need das Passwort, which is a password, das Passwort. And with der Benutzername and das Passwort you can anmelden or einloggen, which is to log in, anmelden or einloggen. And if you want to log out, then it will be abmelden or ausloggen. And both of these are also verbs. So abmelden or ausloggen. And if you forget your password, then you can reset your password, and this is password zurücksetzen. And all of your data is saved on the Festplatte, which is the hard disk, the Festplatte. Then we have das Gerät, which is the device. It could be any device. For example, your mouse is also a Gerät. So das Gerät. The next word is the grafische Benutzeroberfläche, which is the graphical user interface. It is also called GUI. So this is the front end that you see, the grafische Benutzeroberfläche. Yeah, it is a little long, but you can also use GUI and everyone will understand. The next word is the Rechenkapazität, which is the computing power. The Rechenkapazität. And if you have to change something on your computer, then you go in the Einstellungen, which are the settings. The Einstellungen. Another word which you often see when you install something is weiter, which means next. Weiter. And if you want to go back, then the word for that is zurück, which means back. Zurück. Then we have the Verknüpfung, which means link or shortcut. This is when you, for example, make a shortcut of your folder or a link to your folder on the desktop. The Verknüpfung. Then we have der Anhang, which is attachment. This is, for example, an attachment in your email. Der Anhang. The next word is drucken, which means to print. Drucken. So whenever you want to print a PDF or a Word file, then if you go into the settings, you will see drucken over there. And that means to print. And the last word is bearbeiten, which means to edit. For example, edit a document, edit a file, and so on. Bearbeiten. So these were the 50 essential computer and IT terms in German.